Today on the THEINDIEWAVE podcast, we head back east to chat with a woman who refuses to be labeled. Does she rock or does she make music for the children? Tara Drouin, frontwoman for the hit band Iridesense, who was a perennial favorite at Glacer FM, while simultaneously making hits for the geranimals crowd with her hits like Red Rock Road and your favorite and mine, One Heart. That's coming up on this episode of the THEINDIEWAVE podcast.
Brown and green, and when we sleep,
The THEINDIEWAVE podcast with That Sailing Guy. That Sailing Guy, also known as Christopher German. In partnership with Glacer FM and broadcasting from the birthplace of grunge, Aberdeen, Washington. Welcome to the THEINDIEWAVE podcast. Massive welcome to this episode of the THEINDIEWAVE podcast. I am your host, Captain Christopher German, that sailing guy to the world of media. I spent 30 years sailing the seven seas, only to find out that I am a journalist at heart and working to tell the stories of the up-and-coming artists and musicians of the world. You may have caught my work with the Authors Exchange, or perhaps you tuned in when I was the voice of crypto on the Crypto Nightly News. But it took a walk along the muddy banks of the Wishkah River in Aberdeen, Washington, where Kurt Cobain gave voice to the grunge movement of the last century, and I found inspiration to reach back to my musical roots and start a podcast that celebrates all the amazing work that is coming out of this burgeoning movement that is the creator economy. I titled this podcast The THEINDIEWAVE because that's just what it is. A wave of talent, music, soul, sound, and rhythm that is washing away the structures and edifices that have kept us beholden to the mighty commercial media conglomerates of the world and stifled the voices of countless talented souls who would never be heard but for the advent of the internet and Web 3.0. It's a new dawn. It's a new day, and I am feeling good right now, and I invite you to join me for this next adventure into the talents of a very special woman who, in partnership with her band Iridesense, has rocked the world and the Glacer FM charts with their hit Mind Control Society, while she has been working in her own right to embolden young minds through her music and writing with her Gotta Make You Smile hits like One Heart and Red Rock Road. Her name is Tara Drouin, and she's got a New York state of mind mixed with a Mr. Rogers sense of childhood, and she does it all with grace, beauty, and talent of a superstar on the rise. Ladies and gentlemen, let me drag your attentions through the dark dystopian world of mind control with a bit of her hit Mind Control Society by Iridesense before we speak with the lady herself, Tara Drouin, in an exclusive interview I shot with her late last month, where she introduced me to her latest hit, which we have for your listening pleasure after the interview. I Don't Want to Be a Movie Star is what it's called. But before we get to Mind Control, I promised Tara that I would share a bit about her latest album, available on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and everywhere you find great music. And by contacting her on her website, taradrouinauthor.com, called the album Silver Linings. And the track you've been listening to is a cut from that album that I just loved called Winter. I'm just going to let that play for a minute before we turn the heat up on this show and then lull you back to the warmth of a mother's love when we hear all about it from Tara Drouin herself, author, mother, rocker, and our indie artist of the week. Here you go.
I will wait, 'cause winter makes waiting so fun. Fill my glass with some wine. Peacefully, the nature out.
The earthquakes have begun. The fracturing is on. It's a drawn-out catastrophe. Is the water still safe to drink? And if it is right now, Who's to say that all kids all say? I don't know what you can see. This corporate world can silence me, 'cause they don't care about being free. It's a mind control society.
Drouin, you are absolutely amazing. Did you know that?
Well, thank you very much.
Well, I started following you guys when I featured Iridesense on my original podcast, the Crypto Nightly News, and that's kind of what inspired me to start this podcast, the Indie Wave, because quite frankly, I like music a lot more than I like crypto, so it's a lot more fun to talk about anyway. But quite frankly, you guys are a lot of fun to listen to. I love Iridesense, but I also today, as I was doing research about you, I understand you've done children's books, you've done children's music, you've done all kinds of different things. You're part of the Gumdrops, you're part of Iridesense. You're all over the place, and quite frankly, I think you're a lot of fun to talk to because I've watched your podcasts that you've been doing with everybody else, and so I'm thrilled that you're here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, anything creative that I can get involved with, I try to, and I combine my love of teaching and music by doing my books and then by joining the Gumdrops with a fellow teacher. And Iridesense has been going strong for over 25 years. So, it only made sense to kind of branch off and do other things.
Uh-huh.
I ended up doing a solo album that I released back in August called Silver Lining, which definitely features some of the members of Iridesense, but I brought in some other musicians on it, and it was more of an acoustic-based record. So that's my most recent musical release. And then my most recent book release was Starlight, and that was released back in November of 2022.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, it's kind of fun when you the way I book these shows typically is I just send out a kind of a pre-form letter and say, I heard about your music and Glacer FM introduced me to you, and so I just wanted to kind of just touch base with you. But what I do a lot of times, which happened this time, was I got onto a treasure trove. I've wandered down this path that was full of all kinds of different things about you through the internet and through the world. And quite frankly, it's a fascinating walk down through the internet to find all the different pies that you have your fingers in and all the different things that you are doing. And I want to unpack all that stuff today, but let's start off with Glacer FM, where Iridesense is seeing some amazing success. You guys won in 2021 for I believe it was Best Rock Album at that time. But in any case, you've been top notch on there for a very, very long time. How do you feel about Glacer FM and the indie music scene and all this stuff that's going on over there?
I think it's an amazing station. I was really glad to stumble upon it. I do a lot of research myself through the internet to find internet radio stations and different opportunities for the bands. And when I found Glacer, I was like, oh, this sounds awesome. And then the fact that we did have success on it, with our song Life, and then with our song Mind Control Society, it was really cool to win different awards and stuff. So I was very happy. I think definitely other musicians should get on there, and it's a great way to promote your music and, get your music heard by different people across the world. I love checking out our Spotify to just see what countries we're being played in. And I think that that's really cool. Through stations like Glacer, we're able to reach a wider audience. Being from New York, we know a lot of people here, but to get your music heard across the world, I think is just such a amazing opportunity.
Well, and you guys are getting an amazing play throughout the world, not just because of Spotify, but also Pandora and YouTube and all kinds of good stuff out there.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff going on, and what I particularly like is what you've done with your YouTube thing, because you have the iridescent side of things there, and then you link that to the gumdrops, and you link that to your children's music. And quite frankly, I think some of the themes that you bring about in your children's music are just absolutely heartwarming. So I'm going to definitely play one of those cuts in this podcast because I want people to know that about you, but I also want to do Iridescence as well. So I'm ADHD in here, so I'm all over the place with this thing.
Play it all.
Well, tell me this. How's things going with you? Are you guys performing? Are you getting out there? Can people come see you in clubs?
So Iridescence has kind of slowed down a little bit with performing live. I mean, we had a show back in January close by to where we live on Long Island, which was a lot of fun. We played with a friend of ours, John Hampson. He was in a band called 9 Days. Maybe you remember them from the 90s. They had a song called Story of a Girl. Mm-hmm. So we played with him, and it was a great show. But as far as having anything booked right now on the calendar for Iridescence, we don't. I hope, in the next few months, we do play out. We played a couple of shows last year at the Bitter End in New York City, which was really fun. But it's really hard to get everybody together these days because we're all really busy.
Yeah.
My brother's doing another project. He has another band that he's doing called Big Rick Energy with some other musicians. And, my guitar player is playing in another band too. So Iridescence, hopefully, we'll see. We'll have a gig on the calendar soon. As far as the gumdrops go, we just released a new song called I Don't Want to Be a Movie Star that came out last Friday. And the themes of the gumdrop songs kind of stick to the same themes that I've always wanted with Iridescence too, because I think music should have a positive message. Yeah. And a lot of the gumdrops themes, are about like female empowerment or following your dreams, or with this most recent song, I Don't Want to Be a Movie Star, it kind of touches upon the fact that like kids these days, if you ask them what they aspire to be, they say like they want to be a famous YouTuber or, somebody that they see having their picture all over Instagram. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? That's not what's most important.
Right.
What's most important is following, what's in your heart and being unique and carving your own path. So that's what the song's about. It's like, you don't need to be a movie star to be special. You just have to follow your heart.
Well, and that's the dichotomy, I think, that happens with your work, which I think is absolutely so cool and inspirational, is because, you got this very hard edge with the iridescent side. Mind Control Society is definitely on the harder side of things. And it's kind of like a big middle finger to the world. But at the same time, you really, I think, in your other work, you really give the world a great big hug, and you're a mother, and you're obviously a very caring human being, and you're that comes out through that work, that you're really helping to empower children to believe in something bigger than themselves, and that's I mean that's it's a huge dichotomy, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that song, Mind Control Society, because that's probably like our most political song that we've had to date. And the reason that song even came about is that we were on a anti-fracking album. And so the subject matter is, it's about don't pollute the water. Like, it's, and how kind of in politics, sometimes, you with important matters, sometimes they want to silence you. And that song, is our most political, our hardest edge song. But if you really research our catalog and you go back, like, to our first record, Cool Dream Tomorrow, and a lot of our other stuff, like that's on our self-titled record, it's almost like, it's crazy because a lot of it got licensed to Nickelodeon. And it was like, wow, did we ever intend to solely like to appeal to that audience? Not necessarily, but then like we play songs in Zoe 101 and Drake and Josh. So like a lot of that stuff is very pop rock oriented, even though Mind Control is very harder edge. Most of our catalog is more like harmonies, pop rock based, a little on the lighter side. Well,
and that's the cool part about doing the indie wave is I get to see If you look at the way you get portrayed through Glacer FM, a lot of times you're kind of like the one chime. You're this person, and that's what the purpose of this podcast is to really take all these different artists that we have all over the world and really, show them all the multi-levels that are there and all the different shapes and colors and flavors that an artist can put out there in the world. And I think you're a great example of that, you have both of these sides of you that, I've seen you on stage doing work with Iridesense, and you're hard edge. You're a powerhouse up on there with the way you belt it out, and you really have some great chops on you. But at the same time, you're also you really, it's very warm and it's very tender when you look at your personal stuff and you go to your personal YouTube page. And I'm going to advocate everybody check out both sides of you, because I think it's just so much fun.
It's the yin and the yang to Tara Drouin, or Tara Eberly, because that was my maiden name. Yeah, I mean, I guess the teaching aspect of my life and being a mom, that's my softer side, and I love children, I love teaching, and I love trying to empower kids to follow their dreams and believe in themselves, because you know what, that's what we did. Had we not had a very caring and nurturing mom who encouraged us to follow our dreams, we probably never would have even pursued music. So yeah, I think that it's important for parents to do that with their kids. And I guess my first, project with children's music was One Heart. And that song really came about all the diversity that I saw in my classroom, like so many kids of different ethnicities. And I was like, you know what? We might not look the same, but inside we all have one heart. And that song was like so well received. I mean, I've done some workshops in schools and stuff. And if you did do a deep dive into me on the internet, you would see a video, an interview with my daughter and I on the Donna Drake show that we did about the book. And I'm proud of all my books, but I have to say I'm most proud of that one because of just the message behind it.
Well then let me ask you this. I like to play. I was going to play actually One Heart after this podcast, and I always like to end up with that. But do you tell me, should I go One Heart or should I go your newest cut? What would you prefer me do?
I mean, Starlight, I have to say I am the proudest of the vocal. My vocal on that, I think like the harmonies are really beautiful, and I loved how it came out. It's a lullaby. I mean, it's up to you. You choose, considering that it's your podcast. If you want to do the most recent children's song, it would be Starlight, that's released by me. And if you want to do from the Gumdrops, the most recent cut is I Don't Want to Be a Movie Star. So it's really your call. I'd be happy to hear any of them on your podcast.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I think I want to play that. I want to be a movie star because that's kind of a theme of the whole indie wave thing is people are trying to get famous here and do it with this podcast, and I'm trying to help them do that. So I think it's important we bring that element into this thing. But I also I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the podcast with One Heart, because quite frankly, I think that it's just a wonderful thing. And then I have to bring Iridesense in there too. So I have just too much stuff to do with you. That's amazing. Thank you.
Better than not having enough content, right?
Well, that's exactly it. Well, so I don't want to keep you busy all day, and you have lots of stuff to do because you're a very busy woman. Go take care of those kids. Thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, folks, here is the latest cut from Tara Drouin. What's it called again?
I Don't Want to Be a Movie Star.
I Don't Want to Be a Movie Star. That's it. Here you go, folks. Have a listen. know, labels are a pernicious thing. It used to be if you were labeled country, you had a hell of a time crossing over to rock and roll. If you were a crooner like Bobby Darin, you were laughed at when you tried to be a folk singer. Well, that's all ending. Many of the artists we feature on this show belie labels. Crashed Out isn't metal, Kurt Gott isn't country. And Tara Drouin, well, she's just as much a rocker as she is a children's author. And that's what's so cool about the indie wave we are now seeing taking over the world of art, music, literature, and even podcasting. There are no rules about these labels anymore. You can be whatever you want to be. Write for any audience you want to write for. Fit into any round hole you want your square to fit into. The only limit to your genre is your own mind, and you can do whatever you want to do. Whenever you want to do it, for whomever you want to do it for. And that is exactly what the artists of the indie wave are doing. Now, I want to send a big thanks out to all of the artists who made this show the success it is currently. And a special thank you to Tara Drouin for taking time out of her busy schedule to take time to chat with me. It cannot be easy being a full-time mom, a rock star, and an inspiration to kids everywhere, all at the same time. And of course, I want to thank you for listening in and taking the time to listen to all the great work we share on this show. We do it for you, each and every artist in each and every episode. Thank you for tuning in, and please hit that subscribe button to show that you care about what we do here. I'm your host, That Sailing Guy, and we have a very special guest coming up next week when we check in with a woman who took a stab at being an American Idol and had the judges speechless with her talent and her beauty. Make sure you tune in next time when we sit down with the amazing Katie Bell to talk about her genre wandering between country and pop on her way to the top. That's next time. Thanks for watching and listening wherever you found us. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.